The entire planet seems obsessed with electric vehicles, and everywhere you turn, people are saying the same thing. Gas-powered cars are on their way out because they're just too dirty to keep around. And then, right in the middle of all that chatter, one automaker's CEO steps up and drops a bombshell. He says their new Rotary Engine is going to make the whole EV industry look like a kid's toy in comparison. Now, this isn't some scrappy startup trying to get attention. It's not a company riding on hype. This is Mazda, a brand woven into automotive history, known for legendary sports cars and an engine type most people thought had been laid to rest for good. Sounds a little backwards, right? While Tesla keeps expanding charging stations across the globe and BYD is moving millions of electric cars every year, Mazda is doing the opposite, digging up a technology from the 1960s and claiming it might actually be where the future is headed. So what's really going on inside this engine that's got everyone talking again? What does Mazda see that the rest of the industry might be overlooking, or is this just a bold claim with nothing solid behind it? Let's dig into the whole story. Before we get going, if you're into deep dive videos covering technology, EVs, and the bigger fight shaping the future of transportation, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Because here's the thing, electricity might not be the only path forward for humanity. Electric isn't the only road ahead. If you look back at the global auto industry over the last decade, one trend seems almost impossible to argue with. Everything is shifting toward electric. The European Union has already locked in plans to ban new gas car sales by 2035. California, the biggest state in the US, is chasing something similar. China is moving even faster, rolling out hundreds of new EV models every single year. And when you look at the sales figures from Tesla, BYD, and countless other EV makers, the growth is undeniable. From that angle, the story feels like it's already been written. EVs win, gas cars lose, it's just a matter of time. But real life is rarely as tidy as a polished slide deck makes it look. Look at what's actually happening on the ground, not in glossy corporate reports, but in the day-to-day lives of ordinary people. Across the United States, millions of folks live in areas where the closest EV charging station is dozens of miles away. In big stretches of the Midwest and South, the charging network is so thin that people aren't thinking about some far-off future. They're wondering if they'll even make it through a weekend road trip. And that's just one piece of the puzzle. EV prices have come down some, sure, but they're still often higher than comparable gas vehicles in the same category. Then there's the elephant in the room. Replacing a battery after 7 to 10 years is a massive expense that most buyers would rather not think about while signing the paperwork. And range anxiety, the industry's polite term for the fear of getting stranded with a dead battery, hasn't gone anywhere. This is exactly the gap Mazda is going after. It's not that the Japanese automaker doesn't see the EV wave coming, they understand it perfectly well, but they're also noticing something a lot of people would rather ignore. The shift to electric is happening unevenly, and there are still huge gaps to fill. Mazda's answer: bring back the oldest weapon in its arsenal, but reimagine for a new era. To really get why this matters, though, we need to understand the engine itself. What exactly is a rotary engine? What has it done in the past? And why does it still have a place today? The rotary engine, a legend that refused to die. When most people picture a car engine, they imagine the same basic setup: cylinders, pistons pumping up and down, the classic mechanical arrangement that's powered cars for over 100 years. That's your standard piston engine, and it's the backbone of nearly every vehicle you've ever seen on the road. But there's one engine design that broke that mold entirely, and the company that took it mainstream, turning it into an automotive icon, was Mazda. The rotary engine, also called the Wankel engine, named after the German engineer Felix Wankel, who designed it back in the late 1950s, works on a totally different principle. Instead of pistons firing up and down in a straight line, a triangular rotor spins continuously inside a uniquely shaped combustion chamber. The motion is smooth and circular, with none of the constant jolting and impact you get inside a piston engine. The result was a driving feel unlike anything else on the road. Mazda started putting rotary engines into production cars back in the late 1960s, and through the 70s and 80s, they built some of the most iconic sports cars of that era. The RX-7, a name every car enthusiast from that generation instantly recognizes, became one of the most stunning and thrilling sports cars ever built. It sat low, it was light, its weight balance was nearly perfect, and that rotary engine under the hood made a sound nothing else on the planet could replicate. It wasn't loud and booming like an American V8. It wasn't deep and polished like a German inline-six. It was something higher pitched, sharper, almost a little wild, like the car itself was screaming every time you hit the gas. The RX-7 was later followed by the RX-8, and among gearheads, both cars still hold a spot that can't be taken away. Even today, if an RX-7 rolls up to a car meet in California, Texas, or Florida, people stop and stare. So why did Mazda pull the plug on them? It really came down to three big weaknesses in the older rotary designs. First was fuel economy. These engines were notorious gas guzzlers. You got incredible performance, sure, but you paid dearly for it at the pump. And after the oil crisis of the 1970s, that became a serious liability. Second was durability. The sealing components inside a rotary engine, known as apex seals, wore out much faster than the equivalent parts in a piston engine, which meant higher repair bills and a shorter engine life if it wasn't babied. Third, and probably the deciding factor, was emissions. As regulations tightened worldwide, rotary engines struggled to keep up. They burn fuel differently than piston engines, which made controlling emissions a real headache. Mazda ended up killing off the RX-8 in 2012. At the time, plenty of people figured that was the last we'd ever hear of rotary in any serious car conversation. Turns out, they were wrong. It might sound like a small detail, but it's actually a game changer. Mazda never fully let go of the rotary engine. They were just waiting for the right moment to bring it back in a completely different role. The comeback, and this time everything's changed. In 2023, Mazda rolled out the MX-30, a range-extended hybrid that uses a rotary engine, but not to drive the wheels directly. Instead, its whole job is to charge the battery. That's the detail a lot of people glossed over when the news first broke. In this setup, the rotary engine no longer has to shoulder the responsibility of directly propelling the car, the exact job that used to expose its old weaknesses around fuel use and emissions. Instead, it runs at a steady, efficient pace, acting purely as a generator. The battery drives the car, and when it gets low, the rotary engine kicks in to recharge it while you keep driving. This setup is called a range extender, and it directly tackles the biggest fear EV owners have, getting stuck with a dead battery. But why choose a rotary engine for this job instead of a small conventional one? It comes down to the engine's basic physical traits. A rotary engine is remarkably compact, far smaller than a piston engine putting out similar power. In today's tightly packed vehicles, where space is already at a premium thanks to batteries, motors, and electronics, that's a huge advantage. You can tuck a rotary engine into spaces where other engine types just wouldn't fit. It's also lighter, and because it runs at a steady pace instead of constantly speeding up and slowing down like it would if it were driving the wheels directly, the old issues with fuel burn and wear and tear shrink significantly. Mazda has also layered in high-efficiency fuel injection and improved cooling systems for this new generation of rotary tech. The end result is an engine that's still small and light, but far more efficient than the versions people remember from the 80s. And here's the really interesting part, the piece Mazda is betting its future on. This new rotary engine is built to run on biofuels and synthetic fuels, not just standard gasoline. If alternative fuels keep advancing, Mazda's vehicles could become significantly greener without needing major hardware changes. That's a smart hedge. It means Mazda isn't putting all its chips on one single energy source. It keeps them flexible in a world that's shifting faster than anyone can really predict. But no matter how promising a piece of technology looks on paper, it means nothing if it can't survive contact with the real market. The obstacles Mazda can't wish away. Let's be real here, because this is the part of the story that matters most if you want the full picture instead of just one side of it. Mazda is doing something genuinely ambitious, but it's also staring down some very real challenges, and any fair analysis has to acknowledge them. Challenge number 1. Scale. Mazda isn't Toyota, it isn't Volkswagen. In the global auto world, it's a mid-sized player with nowhere near the resources of the giants. Building out a new generation of rotary hybrid systems and scaling up production takes serious capital, and the question is whether Mazda has the financial muscle to see this strategy through to the end. Tesla burned through years and tens of billions of dollars before ever turning a profit. BYD has the backing of China's massive industrial machine. Mazda, meanwhile, is walking a road almost nobody else wants to take, and doing it on a much tighter budget. Challenge number 2. How people see it. For years, the auto industry, backed by media coverage and government policy, has hammered home one clear message: electric is the future. Gas is the past. That idea has sunk in deep, especially in wealthier markets. Convincing buyers that an internal combustion engine, even a rotary one, can still be a smart choice won't be simple, even if the engineering case is solid. Marketing and psychology are a totally different battlefield from engineering. Challenge number 3. Environmental regulation. Maybe the toughest hurdle of all. Mazda has made real strides improving the emissions of its new rotary engine, but at the end of the day, it's still burning fuel. And across Europe, California, and a growing list of other regions, outright bans are on the horizon. By 2035, selling new gas-powered vehicles could be illegal in many of the world's biggest markets. That means Mazda's window to build a foothold with rotary hybrids isn't open forever. The clock is ticking, and it's ticking loudly. Challenge number 4. Proving long-term reliability. This new rotary engine is designed to outperform its predecessors by a wide margin, but memories of RX-8 owners dealing with worn-out apex seals haven't faded. It'll take years of real-world driving, not lab tests, to prove this new generation can actually go the distance. And buyers in their 40s, 50s, and beyond, people who've watched plenty of automotive trends rise and fall, aren't likely to bet their savings on something unproven. And this is where the competition gets even more interesting, because Mazda isn't the only company fighting to define the future of cars. And the rivals it's up against are anything but small. How the big players are watching Mazda. To really grasp why Mazda's move matters, you have to zoom out and look at the bigger global picture. And once you do, things get a lot more compelling. Tesla isn't just a car company. It's a full-blown tech ecosystem, a massive supercharger network, software that updates itself constantly, and one of the most loyal fan bases in the industry. What Mazda is really targeting isn't Tesla's electric cars themselves, it's the charging anxiety that still haunts Tesla owners, and that's a genuine soft spot. Even with the supercharger network expanding rapidly, millions of Americans still live somewhere that charging an EV is a real hassle, not just a hypothetical worry. If Mazda can offer a vehicle with what feels like unlimited real-world range, one you can refuel almost anywhere without ever thinking about battery levels, and price it below a comparable Tesla, that becomes a genuinely compelling pitch to customers Tesla hasn't fully won over. On the other side of the globe, China's BYD is now one of the biggest EV sellers on the planet, built on low prices and long range, which happens to be exactly where Mazda says it wants to compete. If a Mazda rotary hybrid can deliver 400 to 500 miles of real-world range without needing any special charging setup and do it at the same price or cheaper than a comparable BYD, that's a legitimate threat, especially across Southeast Asia, India, and Africa, where charging infrastructure still has a long way to go. BYD knows this too. Don't be surprised if they respond by pushing prices even lower and expanding faster into new markets to lock in customers before Mazda gets the chance to shake things up. Then there's Toyota and Honda, and this part often gets overlooked. Mazda's strategy actually lines up remarkably well with Toyota's long-held philosophy. Toyota has argued for years that the industry shouldn't bet everything on battery electric vehicles alone, that hybrids, hydrogen, and other technologies all deserve a seat at the table. That's why Toyota keeps investing heavily in hybrids and hydrogen power, even as much of the world races toward pure EVs. If Mazda proves rotary hybrids can actually work in the real market, Toyota might treat that as extra validation for its own approach, and could even look at teaming up with Mazda or borrowing from its tech. Honda, with its deep engineering roots, could be another contender, potentially exploring something similar with its own systems if rotary hybrids take off. European brands like BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Audi aren't sitting on the sidelines either. These companies have gone all in on full electrification and are under enormous pressure to make it pay off. But reality in Europe isn't always as neat as it looks in a boardroom presentation. Charging infrastructure outside the major cities is still spotty in plenty of areas, and premium buyers expect flawless reliability, something today's EVs don't always deliver. If Mazda pulls this off, it could force the German automakers to confront an uncomfortable question. Are we overlooking a real chunk of the market? And they might not like the answer. What does this actually mean for you? So in the end, the big question is this: can this technology genuinely reshape the future, and what would it mean for regular people? Let's set aside the corporate rivalry and the technical details for a second and focus on what matters most. If Mazda pulls this off, what does it mean for you, the person actually buying the car? Especially if you're in your 40s, 50s, or beyond, looking at the market with practical eyes instead of chasing hype, wanting to know which vehicle actually fits your life. First, price. Mazda claims its rotary hybrid setup could be cheaper to build than a fully electric vehicle since it skips the need for a massive battery pack. In theory, that translates to lower prices for buyers, a real advantage in a country like the US, where EV costs remain a major barrier for a lot of households. Then there's convenience, where the rotary hybrid really shines. You can still pull into pretty much any gas station, fill up in 5 minutes, and be back on the road. No hunting for a charger, no sitting around for 30 minutes to an hour, no wondering if you'll make it home. For anyone who drives long distances regularly or lives somewhere rural with limited charging options, that could genuinely change day-to-day life. Next up, long-term ownership costs. There's no scenario here where you're suddenly blindsided by a $10,000 battery replacement bill after 8 or 10 years. We don't fully know yet what maintenance on a rotary hybrid will cost long-term, but in theory, it avoids that one massive financial hit that comes standard with an aging EV battery. Then there's the driving experience, and this is somewhere rotary engines offer something EVs simply can't fully copy. Electric cars are quiet, smooth, and powerful, no argument there, but a lot of drivers feel like something's missing. Call it soul. The sound of an engine revving up, the feedback through a gear shift, that sense that there's a living, breathing machine working under the hood. For anyone who grew up in the 70s, 80s, or 90s and remembers what a real sports car felt like, that's not something kilowatts and instant torque can replace. Then there's the environmental angle, and this is where it gets more complicated. Mazda has made real progress on emissions with its new rotary engine, and the potential to run on biofuels could shrink its carbon footprint over time. But honestly, an EV charged with renewable energy is still going to be cleaner in terms of direct emissions. That's a trade-off every buyer has to weigh based on what matters most to them. Where it gets more interesting, though, is when you zoom out to the full life cycle of a vehicle. Building lithium-ion batteries takes a huge amount of resources and generates plenty of carbon emissions of its own. Once you account for the entire process, mining raw materials, manufacturing, driving, and eventually disposal, the gap between EVs and rotary hybrids might not be as clear-cut as most people assume. And then there's the long game, the biggest bet Mazda is placing. If synthetic fuels made from renewable electricity and carbon captured straight from the atmosphere become widely available over the next decade, a rotary engine running on that fuel could get close to carbon neutral. Plenty of engineers and researchers think it's technically achievable, but it's still years away from being a commercial reality. This is really the core dividing line in the whole debate about where transportation is headed. Do you believe in fully electric vehicles getting better batteries and wider charging networks every single year? Or do you believe in a more varied future where different fuels and technologies coexist side by side? Mazda is betting on the second option, and over the coming years, the market is going to tell us who called it right. The bottom line: the story of Mazda's Rotary Engine isn't just about one type of engine, it's the story of a smaller company with fewer resources choosing to zig while everyone else zags, betting that what looks like the industry's greatest strength is actually its biggest blind spot. Will Mazda turn out to be right or wrong? Honestly, the truthful answer is, we don't know yet. Electric vehicles are growing fast, and progress on batteries, charging networks, and cost is moving quicker than a lot of people expected. But at the same time, real problems around rural infrastructure, battery costs, and the driving experience haven't gone away. Mazda is fighting inside that gap, and depending on what happens over the next 5 to 10 years, that gap could get a lot bigger or shrink to almost nothing. One thing's for sure, the auto industry is about to get a whole lot more interesting. This isn't just Tesla versus BYD anymore. There's a new player in the game with a completely different playbook, and the sound of a rotary engine making its comeback isn't something you'll be able to ignore. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Nature Mystery Unravel Mysteries. Learn untold tales of history and stay in the exciting world of new discoveries.